Hey Femmes, happy Monday. I am Violette, Ayala, the founder of FemCity, and you're joining me today for our Monday Motivational Series. And today we have these two beautiful FemCity Global members that are going to be joining us. Today's conversation is all about how to add more time in your schedule. We have a lot of femmes that are looking at starting a business, perhaps up-leveling a business, or just generating more revenue, and trying to figure out how they can add more time in their schedule so they can actually accomplish their goals. And if you're joining us live, I encourage you to join the conversation, ask questions, or share aha moments. If you're watching this in the library, weeks and months from now, don't feel like you missed the conversation. You can always join along, tag us, or message us privately, and intentionally, we are here for you. We collectively want you to do all your goals. We want you to accomplish all your goals. So please let us know how these tips helped you. To get started, let's go ahead and introduce who's joining us today. Lisa, can you share a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Sure. I'm a coach for creative entrepreneurs and holistic practitioners. I've been doing it for about 20 years, and I love helping people to stay in their flow and to get the best results they want to grow their business.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa. Regena.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Femmes. I'm Regena Rosa Celeste, and I'm an internal peace vision coach. I teach, coach, and train how to live with more peace, purpose, and productivity.
Awesome. All right, let's dive in. So those femmes that are watching want to know, what is your number one tip in making their schedule have more time, meaning that they can accomplish more things? Let's go to Lisa.
Oh, this is such a great question. There's so many things that you could do, but I'm going to gear this towards the creatives and those who don't like the Franklin Planner to-do list where everything is timed out for every minute, and that just gives you anxiety. So my tip for you is to figure out what your rhythm is and to work with your rhythm, not fight your rhythm. So, figuring out if you're a high creative, and for me, I in the morning need to be writing on my novel, or I'm going to be grouchy with all my clients for the rest of the day. We don't want that. So I got to feed myself first and then move forward. If I'm having one of those really extroverted kind of days because I'm an introvert, the next day I'm going to have downtime to rebuild. So really figuring out what your system is. And the only way to do that is to practice and to experiment. So figuring out, is it, do I work better doing this on Mondays, or do I work better doing outsourcing because I rested all day? So figuring out what your rhythm is, what really works, and to honor that. And then also if the muse decides to hit in the middle of the shower, and all of a sudden they're doing Project Z, and you're going, no, but I wanted to do A, just go with the muse. Go with it, write it down. Can't tell you how many times I have wet paper just scribbling things. Because if you fight it, you lose the inspiration, and then it takes you 500 times longer to do it later. So if the muse hits, honor it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you're calling it the muse also. And I love that the tip was directed at creatives, which you are, because I think that they struggle, from what I see, they struggle the most when it comes to their time management, because they're just so spirited in so many different ways that it's hard to kind of just pinpoint. It's funny. The reason why I stopped working on Fridays is because of that, because my energies on Fridays are so low. And my highest level of creativity comes Sunday night. And it's because I was off, Friday, Saturday. Sunday night is the highest level of creativity. So that's when I do all of my creativity, and Monday also. So I generally don't have any meetings lined up on Monday because of that. Going with my energy flow, going with what fits me best. I'm a super morning person. So getting up at 6 a.m. and working in the morning. I'm not a nighttime person. I'm generally asleep at like 10:30. But recognizing that, because so many times we're forcing ourselves to be one or the other, or forcing ourselves to be creative when we really should be having some downtime. I love that you share that, just feeling out what works best for you. I always found a pattern to be true. So as I have those patterns, I'm like, oh, I really did great writing today or working on this campaign. I think Mondays might be my jam. Like maybe that's when I should start doing these things. So I love that you shared that tip. Love that.
And then, you know, the next thing you can do is then drill down on what gets you more into the flow and what moves you forward. So, you know, there's certain ways of going to the internet meeting or to the networking meetings or to go and to do copywriting. But if you can start training your brain, there's certain places in the house where I work better than other places. So this is like my writing, this is my networking, you know, and having the energy complete, you know, play with it. And then you can start playing with colors and drinks and senses and all sorts of fun stuff to keep you rocking.
I love that. And so if you're listening and going, okay, well, how does that add hours to my schedule or to my time? The reality is that you're more focused. And so when you are more focused, when you're in alignment with your energy patterns, you're more productive, meaning that you have added time into your day. You've literally, when you become the highest level of productivity, you've added now hours in your day so that you can take on another project.
Yeah, and it goes faster. You know, I started experimenting when I was in getting my second master's. I realized if I got up at 4 and started reading the philosophy and all that stuff, I did it 5 times faster than if I would have waited until afternoon. So there is an energy thing. And when you're going with the muse, it just comes, boom, right?
Yeah.
Versus when you're trying to force it and trying to get distracted and all that kind of stuff.
Excellent. Love that. Let's go to Regena. Regena, what is your number one tip to add time into your schedule?
Well, I think the biggest thing is making a decision that you want more time in your schedule. Like one thing that I hear so often, and I know I in the past have been guilty of this. And so I catch myself as much as possible. If I hear myself or I hear someone else say, I don't have time, then if I feel it's safe, I'll ask them, would you like to create time? Because it's a choice, right? When people say, I don't have time, well, you have to decide to make time for things that are important. So just like Lisa said, I love what she just said. She made a choice to wake up at 4 a.m., right? Some people will say, well, that's too early. Okay, that's a choice, right? Like you don't have to wake up at 4, but if you want to get everything done, you might have to wake up at 4 or maybe 7 or 8 or whatever your schedule is. And I think, you know, one of the things that I find really interesting is when people say, I don't have time, a lot of times it's an excuse. Instead of just saying, I don't want to make that a priority. And so just like with yourself, like I love what you shared, Violette, about knowing yourself and knowing your own rhythms. And sometimes it takes a minute, right, to understand. And I say minute, but obviously I'm minimizing it. It takes a while sometimes to identify what are our patterns. So that might take a couple of weeks or a few months, right? And maybe having an accountability partner to say, hey, can you let me know when you feel or you see that I am higher in energy, like talking to your family and saying, hey, if you notice, or close friends, if you notice that I have more energy on Mondays, for example, can you let me know? And enrolling people in that opportunity to be our best self, because if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't do it, right? And we would make excuses. So I don't think people do it intentionally where they say, I don't have time. I think they just don't realize the power that they do have. And so they give it up to this idea, I don't have time. Well, we're the only ones who make our time, right? We're the ones that make our schedule. So if somebody says, I don't have time, it's like, well, sorry, don't cry to me because you're the one who makes your own schedule, you know, like even if you have a job, right? And someone who works for someone, you still get to decide how you want to use your time. So if you want to pick your nose or play video games or write a book or go out with your friends or work, it's totally your call, right? You can choose to take a 30-minute lunch or you can take a 20-minute lunch. You still have those 30 minutes. How you use them is up to you.
Yeah, I love that. So I was on the accountability program earlier today. We were talking about, you know, how to stick to your goals. And one of the things that I mentioned was just getting rid of things that don't serve you anymore. Because we spend so much time, much like what you were saying right now, we spend so much time on things that really are not important. And then we don't have time. But the reality is releasing things so that you can actually do the things that you want to do. And if you don't think you have time, think about those times that you got sick and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I have a cold now. Now I have time to rest or to watch that. You know, like you can adjust time, or like sometimes when you have a bill due, like I remember when we were fresh, like kids and paying bills for the first time as adults, like, oh my gosh, I don't have time to go to the, you know, to pay for my bill. This is before, you know, online. I have to go to the office to pay the bill or whatever. You'd make the time, you know, if they're going to cut off that electricity or whatever, you figure out a way to make it down there and pay that bill or figure out how to, you know, to do whatever it is. So you figure out what you need when it becomes a priority. You figure out the time it takes, like Lisa said, at 4 a.m.
Yeah. It's kind of like that when we're about to go on vacation, we get everything done somehow. It's like time stops.
Exactly.
And there's something to also meditation in my own experience that's really helped me. Like kind of going back to what Lisa said with the muse, like I really like that word, because it really is about having that laser focused productivity. It's not about spending wasteless countless hours, ruminating over the same issues or the same complications, and delegating. If you're not good at something, it might make sense to have someone else do it, because they'll do it in half the time. Yeah. And then you have more time.
Yeah. Focusing on what's your superhero talent, and what's not yours, giving it to somebody else. That is their superhero talent, like accounting or bookkeeping. That's not my superhero talent, for sure. So giving it to somebody else is always wise. Final advice, Lisa, that you have for Femmes?
Oh, I would love that for them to play with time, because time is just a construction that we make up. And, I really learned it when I became a single mother of 6 kids, and my oldest at the time was 11. And I'm like, there is no way getting everybody ready to get anywhere on time. So I just threw that out the window, because it was too much pressure. And what I was surprised with is I started showing up in places on time, because I just like, I was just going, okay, Muse, just clear up the traffic. We're just going to show up. And it was so amazing how much I was able to get with time. And so you can either constrict or constrain, and you can play with it. So if you have way too much to do, it's like, okay, let's just dive in, see what we can get done, and make it fun. I like to race with the time and just seeing what can we get done. And it's amazing how much you can get done in a short amount of time when you take away the pressure, and it's just like, let's make it a game.
I love that. Making it a game. Yeah. I've done that too when we're in traffic. I'm like, you know what? Let's just pretend like, no, and I don't drive crazy. Like, oh, let's just, and then it always works out. We always end up, like you said, I love that. Regena, final advice.
Well, Lisa hit the nail on the head, and it's funny. She's like saying she's a single mom with 6 kids. Like, that saying, if you want something done, give it to a busy person, because they'll always find a way. Like, you just do it. You just make a decision, you get it done. So I think it's really about being truthful with ourselves and really asking ourselves, what are my priorities? If I say that health is my priority, but I don't make time to exercise, then it's really not my priority. And it's okay to say that. So I think it takes a lot for people to be honest sometimes with themselves. And I think when we're willing to do that, we can really see where we get to make better choices in our life that are maybe not better, but more aligned with what we say our goals are. And so I think if that's the one piece of advice is, do the inventory, right? Do the self-inventory and ask ourselves, what is it that we want or say that we really want, and notice if it's in congruency with what our actions are.
Yeah, love that. What a great conversation. Yeah, this is amazing. Thank you so much. I'm looking at myself, I'm being like to myself, like all these things I can definitely improve upon, for sure. And going back to, 6 kids, master's program, give it to a busy person. They'll always figure it out, right? Actually, it's so funny when my kids stopped doing, my oldest child, when he stopped doing sports his senior year, his grades went down. So the first time that he didn't have sports, his grades went down because he wasn't as busy. So I think the more busy you are, the way you can actually become more productive with what you've got as well. Lisa, how can Femmes find you to learn more about the work you're doing in this world?
Oh, they can find me at stepitupqueen.com. So that's QUEEN.com. And I would love to talk to anybody, and we can have a little chat on how to play with time and find those miracle pockets so you can get things done.
Love that, Lisa. And Regena, how can Femmes find you to learn more about the work you're doing in this world?
Thank you so much, Violet. The best way is they can text me at yoga. They can text the word yoga to 64600, or on my website, which is internalpeacenow.com.
Love it. All right, ladies, for those that are going to dive into these tips, please let us know how these tips helped you. Feel free to comment here, or you can message or private message any of the 2 of them. And we can't wait to hear about your success. If you haven't checked out FemCity yet, we invite you to check it out for free for 30 days. Head over to femcity.com, and we'll be back on Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern time for our next weekly panel discussion. Until then, we wish you a great rest of the week. Bye.